Fear and greed move every candle on your chart and most of your bad decisions too. For 2.5 to 3 years, I would go through this cycle where I'd keep thinking that I had changed, I had figured it out, I was doing well, until one bad day would erase everything. Discipline doesn't start with another rule. It starts when you stop pretending that you're in control. All right, so if we think about fear in our trading, what does that actually look like in our actions while we're trading? It's cutting winners too early, locking in the profits before they disappear because we're afraid our trade's going in our way. And I've had trades where it's like it's going my way, I bail for whatever, I get out before my take profit. And then I look at the chart after and it's just like I have to wonder, what was I looking at? I was not seeing anything on the chart because there was no actual reason, no technical reason, no structural reason to get out of the trade. So it was just fear. It was just wanting to lock in that money and not give it back. Hesitating on valid setups is another way that fear likes to show up in our trading. That happened to me last week also. It's very frustrating. Um, we need to do our back testing. And then when we've decided what our setups are, what our valid setups are going to be, we need to take them. We can't hesitate because I know for me, that's led to going on tilt pretty bad. When I hesitate, I don't take a good setup and then I have to watch it go without me in it. Freezing after a loss is another one. Or I think it's what could be added to freezing after a loss is especially when you don't have a stop on the trade and price gets to where you know your stop should be, where your mental stop is, and you freeze and you just let it keep going against you. I know I've done this plenty of times in the past. Now, if I don't have a stop on my trade, I just freak out so bad that it's like, I don't know. The last time it happened, I couldn't even remember how to put a stop on the chart. I was so panicked by not having the stop automatically there that I just kind of freaked out. Um, Fear can also show up as checking your P&L while you're in the trade. Um, the P&L has nothing to do with the trade, but the P&L has a lot to do with our emotions and how we're feeling about the trade. So if you find yourself looking at that in the trade, that's fear. Um, Fear, we might think that it's a good thing because it's just us being cautious, but it's not. It's just panic pretending to be disciplined, and it will derail your trading. I speak from experience. Fear says, what if I'm wrong? Discipline says, I've already decided what's right. What if fear isn't the big problem for you? What if it's greed? I haven't suffered from greed in a while. I feel like I'm more in the fear stage right now, but I've definitely experienced greed in my trading in the past, so I am very familiar with this one as well. Um, I think that greed can often disguise itself as ambition, as just wanting to do better. Um, Forcing trades because you're up early and you want more, moving your stops, moving your profit targets, just to give it a little bit more room. Yeah, sometimes that works out and sometimes it's a good strategy to have huge targets, but was that your strategy and your plan going in, or was it greed coming in halfway through the trade? Where greed gets me the worst, I think, is when I'm down. So if I, say I took a loss for $100 and then I took another trade and maybe the target was, maybe the target on that second trade would, be, I don't know, put me up like 10 or 20 points on the day. This is where I find greed comes in. And then I start going for those huge targets. Like I'm not satisfied with break even at this point. I'm not satisfied with a small win. I want a huge win. Um, Doubling down after a small win can also be greed. I don't know. I think any kind of doubling down probably goes into the greed category. unless it's like one of those I don't know where this falls in when it's in that like make or break situation. And it's like, I'm either going to lose the account right now or I'm going to make it big. I don't know. Maybe that's just full gambling and it's not fear or greed. Not sure. Um, Breaking your rules is another sign of greed. So if you have a limit at, like for me, it's one trade a day. So if I'm breaking my limit of one trade, and I want to take two, especially after a winner, then I think that's greed. But maybe greed also comes in after the losers because you don't want to close out for a small red day. You want money. So it could be greed as well. I think greed kind of comes in and says, like, just one more, take one more trade. And that's how we end up losing like a week or more worth of progress in like 5 minutes. I know I've had this so many times where it's like, I've gone in on that, like just one more. And it's always been so stupid. It's been like 5 points. And I go in for one more and end up blowing an account. There does seem to be a cycle with fear, greed, and tilt. With me, I feel like everything leads to a cycle that involves tilt at some point or another if I don't really stay on top of it. I've been looking at this as like fear or greed, but instead of looking at them as being opposites, maybe we should see them as feeding off of each other. So much fun in trading. Fear makes you exit your trade early. Fear makes you jump in when you know you shouldn't. Um, you're just afraid that it's going to go without you, and you're afraid you're not going to get any more opportunities. The market moves without you, and now greed says, "Get it back." That's tilt. Tilt just seems to be fear and greed having some kind of argument with each other in your head. Or it's like you have, instead of the angel and the devil, it's like you just have two devils, one's fear, one's greed, and they're fighting it out, and you just keep clicking. Um, I've had days where fear made me skip my setups and greed made me go in chasing 10 points. That's the loop that we're really trying to break. And again, with trying to break anything, it always comes down to recognizing it, identifying the problem, maybe else when you're not trading, and then spotting it in real time. It's broken record time for me here, but it all seems to come back to awareness, to spotting the thing, and then being able to actually catch it in real time and then act on it. Sometimes it's frustrating because it's like, great, I had the awareness, but then I still did the dumb thing. So it's having the awareness and then being able to act on that. So with fear and greed, um, we really want to pay attention. So you can start by you can practice naming it mid trade. Like, "Oh, I'm scared right now. There's no valid reason to get out of this trade. It's just fear screaming at me to get out of the trade." Or it's greed telling me that my 50-point profit target isn't enough and that it should be 200. You can use journaling or check-ins to mark when either emotion took over. You can also talk to AI later about it. Like, I think this happened in my trading. I think maybe it was fear or greed. And then that can also help you as well. It's a great free tool to use. I've used it lots over this past year in this sort of discipline journey that I'm on. But it's really just becoming aware that it was the emotion that drove the decision in the trade. All right, how do we reverse this? Because we know we need to reverse this. We don't want these little fear and greed devils on our shoulders dictating how we're going to behave and what we're going to do when we're trading. Um, we can't eliminate these emotions. There's no getting rid of fear and there's no getting rid of greed. But I think that what we can work toward is trying to rewire how we respond to them when they show up in our trading. So, some tips for that would be to accept your stop before you enter the trade. Put the trade on, accepting that your stop might get taken out, and that's fine. That's part of trading. All traders lose. If any traders tell you they don't take losses, they're lying to you. Uh, pre-commit to your target so that greed can't come in mid-trade and tell you to go for 200 points when your plan was to go for 50. Don't check your P&L mid-trade. Try not to focus on the money, not to think about the money. If it's in dollars on your chart, change it to points or ticks or whatever. Get it off of money and don't go to looking at it in the middle of the trade. That has nothing to do with the trade. We want to stay focused on just following our plan. If our plan dictates where we get in and where we get out and where the trade is invalidated, that's what we need to follow, not what our P&L says. And you can also do what I try to do, what I've successfully done before and what I'm struggling with now, and that's walking away once the trade is on. Um, if you're not having to manage it with a manual trailing stop, put it on and leave. Um, we can also try to replace some of our mental talk or what we're saying to ourselves, maybe even sometimes out loud in our trading rooms. Like, replace, I hope it works with, I planned this trade. I planned to execute this setup and I did. Replace, I can make it back with, there will be another setup tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day. Um, Fear equals risk management, greed equals conviction. The goal is to balance. We need to balance it out. We don't want to just fully suppress either one and then let the other one out of control. We need a balance in these. There's going to be fear, there's going to be greed, and we just need to pay attention and balance them and not let them get out of control. Someone in the comments last week accused me of having fancy makeup and slick sales pitches. So I'm just going to leave it at this. You know that my Discord is out there. It's for people who have tried on their own with the discipline and it's just not working and they're frustrated and they're ready to go to more of like a AA community support group, daily check-in kind of vibe with it. So if you think that could help you, then check out the Discord. So, as you can see by all of this, and this is only one trade, all this writing for one trade leading up to just one trade today and a 34-point profit on it. So fear really did rule my trading today. I hate to admit that. I don't like that it happened, but it's what happened. I had a really good setup early on there. It had a 31-point stop, so about a 46-point profit target. I didn't take it because I was scared and I didn't like the stop. So then the chart, it kept going. There were more setups, but I was just regretting not taking that first one. I decided I needed to be patient and wait for the pullback to 600. That was difficult. I managed to do it. I got my trade short, and in the trade short, I had to make the decision of, do I move my stop to break even when the trade's in profit here, or do I just take the 30 points? I decided to just take it. I got 34 points on the trade, closed it up, and that was it for the day. It did go on to get my 137-point target, but given the volatility, I was happy to just be out with a winning trade. I think trading overall is like a rehab for your decision making and your emotions and your emotional awareness. It's definitely been a crazy journey for me, and I know for a lot of others as well. Anyone who sticks in it for more than a year, I think, starts to realize like, oh wow, there's a lot to this, and the mental part of it is huge. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. What do you think you struggle with more, or is it like the fear, greed, tilt, regret loop that you kind of get caught up in? I don't know. What do you think is a bigger problem for you, fear or greed? For me right now, I know for sure it's fear. In the past, greed's been a big problem too. All right. I hope you liked the video. Leave me a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you back here tomorrow.